What's up, guys? This is the Untitled.jpg podcast where we just talk about art, movies, and anything that comes to mind. So, for this episode, we're going to have Camryn Ramirez. She was so much fun to talk to, but unfortunately, the whole time we had connection issues during the whole podcast. Um, so, you'll see towards the end that you're going to see me in this outfit in the future because we had to record the last 20 minutes or so because of connection issues during the initial podcast. But other than that, she is a fine artist. Also met at FIT, met her through Niko. She's curated a show called Reflections with a bunch of her friends, and she did that all on her own. And we get into that, and we get into what she's been doing with in quarantine, all the side hustles she's been doing, and the work that she had to push out while she was out there in Vermont in a cabin. Like, how cool was that? And everything that goes with experimenting with art, how she got into fine arts, what she's doing now, what kind of new things she's working on, and what movies she's into. So without further ado, enjoy the show. All right, guys. So today we have Camryn Ramirez. How are you, Camryn?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm all right. Just working day by day, getting through it. Um, so I want to just talk about how we met. We met through our good friend Niko, and
Yeah.
I think one of the first times that I actually got to know you was during your curated show that you actually was your debut. And that's where I got to kind of talk to you more about everything and kind of pick your brain a little. So yeah, so let's talk about
Yeah.
that. I want to kind of know how you started in art, like why you chose to go to an art college and, all that kind of stuff.
For
So, yeah.
sure. Well, I think, yeah, I mean, I drew for all of my existence. I was always drawing as a little kid, and it was mostly people, weird people, but mostly people and houses and very like, family things as a little girl. And then it just progressed into more portraiture as I got older in like high school.
Yeah.
And realized I kind of was good at it. And my parents were like, "Hey, go to art school." And that's why I'm here.
Awesome. I mean, I guess we all kind of have that way of like thinking about going to college because when I was thinking of it, art wasn't really on my mind because I was kind of scared to go to art school because they always tell you, oh, that you're not going to really find a job or anything, or it's just going to be a hard road for you. So you kind of try and just find other colleges, like go the academic route.
Yeah.
But I just knew in me it just didn't feel right. So I'm kind of glad that well, definitely glad that I went to an art college. Um,
Yeah.
so for you, did you look at into any other colleges besides FIT, or was that FIT like the one you wanted to go
Yeah.
to?
To be honest, I went to FIT because of the tuition. I mean, because it was a
Right.
state school, I knew that above anything, I wanted to be in New York City. It wasn't so much about the school. I knew that there were, and I didn't know how much at the time, but I knew that there were a lot of great museums, great shows, great artists to be around in New York. I really wanted to go to Pratt, but we make our decisions and we go with them. And I'm really happy I
Yeah.
went to FIT solely because of the people that I met.
Yeah. Why'd you choose fine arts and not like something like illustration?
I think because at the end of the day, it comes down to me being more of like a conceptual artist above anything else. At least that's the path I started to take very strongly in college. It was way more about the concept than the craft. And still to this day, I feel like I'm training my hand to do things that I have trouble with. Whereas illustrators to me are really, really skilled in a way that I am not. So yeah, I went more concept, sculpture, uh, some type of symbol vibe with picking fine arts over illustration.
Okay, so then you also see yourself more of like a gallery kind. got the gallery route, you don't see yourself like doing like commercial work, right?
Right, right. I mean, I have a lot of respect for it and it's necessary, but computers scare me. And I'm way more comfortable like getting really messy in paint and
Yeah.
whatever else than I am, messing with Photoshop.
So is that right piece right behind you a self-portrait or?
It is. I was like, where should I sit? And it's an
Yeah.
old self-portrait from like, I don't know, sophomore year of college.
That's awesome, man.
And I want to do something to it. I want to like, I don't know, put fabric on it or bedazzle it or just something crazy because I don't love it, but it is me. So
How long did that take you? Because that's massive.
that's a great question. I would venture to say like between 30 and 40 hours probably
Oh
in
my
total.
gosh. Dude, I spend that much time like
Split up.
on, yeah. I mean, I spend that much time on even a smaller piece. I don't know. Like a when I
But you know
comes
what?
to
I can't
doing
work
that big.
small. I can't work small.
Really?
I feel like I can make the shapes and the shadows way more articulate in on a large canvas than a smaller one. When I started recently working on smaller canvases trying to do flesh paintings, and it's really challenging for me because of their size.
I guess when it comes to like the smaller paintings, I mean, because you're so in there, you got to go with smaller brushes and then you just kind of nitpick and everything. You're just trying to like figure it out and like just get it perfect. At least with
Yeah.
like the bigger paintings, you could really be more expressive because you're not gonna see it like straight, like really close up. You got to see it from far away. Um,
Yeah.
but I remember doing like these two huge paintings that like 36 or 20 24 by 36, something like that, and they were taking me months.
Okay.
They were taking me months because I was just instilling like the whole like illustration vibe of how I paint. So
Yeah.
it was just like trying to perfect it, like trying to like nitpick everything. And I don't know. I mean, you somehow make it look so easy, and it looks awesome. I don't know
No.
why you don't like it.
I think it's just brush size. I think you and I have different brush sizes, probably. I'm very comfortable with a large brush, and
Yeah,
you're probably more comfortable with a smaller. I think just because of our training,
yeah, for sure. I think with me, it's just trying to solve problems with what I'm getting hired for and just trying to get that idea across. Um,
Yeah.
I know me and Niko. Well, Niko had the whole idea of doing like a whole gallery show with the Wolfpack, and that was already daunting enough because I didn't know what I would do for something like that. Because with me with illustration, you have a task. They tell you what you need to do. So when it comes to like doing your own personal work and to like kind of blend it together with everybody else's like work, like the gallery show that you did, Reflections, was that's what it was called, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, where
Mhm.
everybody was following that same theme. I don't know. With me, it's kind of daunting to think about that, but definitely I'm excited to do it. But then when we were planning it, that's when COVID hit and it kind of just fell through, unfortunately. But you managed to do it
Right.
right before COVID. So I want to kind of like pick your brain on that. Like, how was that experience in curating your first show?
It was. I very impulsively made the decision, which I'm glad that I did. And then I just had to work really quickly. And I had a few ideas. I think I had like 10, probably give or take, show ideas, and Reflection seemed like the right one because it could be so literal or
Yeah.
so broad. And I luckily knew the owner of the space, so that made it easier to book and to pay for. And I actually like painted the walls beforehand and cleaned it out. I mean, it was full of just her things. And so I cleaned it out, I painted the walls, put up lighting, and and then picked, pretty much everyone who applied got in because I just wanted to see what it would be like.
Yeah.
And it was really exciting. I miss it. I had such big plans to keep making shows after the fact because of how big the turnout was. But then COVID. So yeah.
Yeah, so let's talk about that too. So you were saying how you were all inspired to do all these things right after, and then obviously COVID just like put everything to a halt, took all of our routines away from us. So what did you start doing
Yeah.
now during this whole year, during the whole last 2020? Like what were you doing when the COVID hit to keep you busy?
So yeah, so when it hit, I escaped to rural Vermont with an ex-boyfriend and lived
Oh
in a cabin
wow.
in the woods without electricity. Water. Yeah, no running water, no electricity. We were just doing it out there. And so I got to do a lot of painting though outside. I got to make my thesis outdoors, which was actually it was sad that I didn't get to do my original plan for my thesis, but I think it ended up being a really great experience having to do it in the woods. Um, and yeah, so mostly I was outside and showering in cold water outside
Oh no.
and painting, and yeah, I mean it was crazy. And then Storm King Art Center, it's like a big sculpture park in upstate New York. It's in my hometown. I got a job there, so I moved back to my parents and worked for them. And now I'm also teaching art lessons in the area as well. So yeah, now I'm back in my hometown, um, out of the woods, teaching art, and that's been a whole new experience. It's been a lot of learning this last year, I think.
Dude, that's like an artist kind of like when you think of an artist and like in movies and what they do, how they go literally into isolation, into the cabin to get a lot of
Yeah,
work done. You literally did it. That's
yeah,
crazy. So you had no
yeah.
internet or anything like were you just like not you were disconnected from like the internet? Had no idea what was going on? Like what was that?
No, we had like a little Wi-Fi jetpack, which barely worked. And so, oh my God, you can hear the dog bones. No. So we could sometimes see what was going on, and then because there was no electricity, for a while we would have to go across an entire meadow to a neighbor's house to charge our phones and laptops and things like that until they got a generator. And then sometimes we would have the phones, sometimes not, because they die eventually. Um, so yeah, it was sparse, the electronic use, which was
Oh,
good,
okay.
honestly. It
Yeah,
was
yeah.
great.
It kept you focused. So you said you were working on your thesis. So what was your
Yeah.
thesis about?
So my original plan for my thesis, I was living in Manhattan, and it was before everything got crazy. And I was going to do it on the basis of human connections, specifically human touch. And I was going to
Okay.
make flesh sculptures with silicone of like whether it was, a sexual touch or just a hug or like a stranger kind of like touching your arm or a grandparent holding a baby, all the different kinds of human touch. And then ironically, COVID hit and we were supposed to stay 6 feet apart from each other.
Oh
So
man.
when I got to the woods, I was like, what the heck am I going to do now? I mean, it was so defeating and almost deafening to be like, I was doing a project on human connection and now I'm alone essentially in the woods. So I tied a web of like red rope and string all throughout the trees in the woods as like a symbolic way of connecting me to the people that I wasn't with at the time. And the web ended up being, I don't know, maybe 20 feet long, but it was like along a pathway. So it was like 20 feet long on each side.
I
And
do
I wanted
remember
to keep
seeing
working
that.
on it,
Yeah.
but then I yeah, and that was amazing. And I realized I loved working with rope and yarn, and I still don't really know how to tie very good knots, but that's been, kind of fun to play with. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I can't be a boy scout. I can't survive in the woods. I
no.
don't know how to do any of that. I mean, I rely on on YouTube, so um so with with the rope, Did you leave it there, like in Vermont? Like it's still
Yeah,
hanging?
it's still there. It's still
Yo,
there.
that's so cool. So you kind of have your
I
piece in the middle of nowhere. I wonder what it's like for people
know.
that encounter it. Like what they think.
You know, I'm actually more interested in when animals encounter it, what they're thinking, like a
Oh,
bear
okay.
or a deer. If they're below and they like smell it or they get stuck in it was one of my fears. Um, but yeah, a lot of I would see, especially in the heat of the summer, a lot of bugs and spiders like going onto it as I was working on it. So I'm sure there's been a lot of wildlife interaction with it, which is really kind of intriguing.
I think like maybe in a couple years or so, maybe like revisit that and see how it's doing. Like maybe I don't know, maybe the branches just
Yeah,
kind of grew in with it. It kind of just became one with the nature. I think that would be a cool thing to like
yeah,
look back to. But it's
I
awesome
would
that
love
y-
to see it.
yeah, it's awesome that you kept it there because now anybody that goes past that, any animals or anything, has a piece of you
Yeah,
there.
for
So
sure.
let's see. Um, so you were doing all that through quarantine. You then moved back home and started
Mhm.
working at the gallery, but you also are teaching. So what are you teaching? Like what like grade? How old are the people? And what's that experience like?
Truly, it came out of absolutely nowhere. And an old friend of mine offered me the job, and I'm really glad that I took the opportunity. I teach students of all ages. I mean, right now, the oldest is probably around my age, like 21. I'm 20, I'm almost 23. And then the youngest is 10. And a lot of my students have disabilities. So that's been a whole other exciting part of teaching is learning different ways of communicating and also expression in artwork is different for everyone. But yeah, my lessons are private lessons, so it's not like a class, but they are in person, which to me is great because I would hate to be doing it over Zoom, to be honest.
Yeah.
And yeah, so either I am deciding the lessons and changing them week by week depending on the student, or I have a couple students that have been working on projects for weeks now, and it's something that they chose to do. Like one of my students is working on a portrait of her grandparents, and one of my students is painting sneakers, and he's been doing that for a while. And then the other ones, I kind of change it up. It's a painting one week, it's a sculpture the next week, it's some form of printmaking the following week. But truly, I've learned so much more from teaching, I think, than they have from me, which is honestly so exciting. I feel like you don't really know something until you have to explain it to someone else.
Yeah.
And so I've had to like learn how to regurgitate my own knowledge.
Yeah, it's like a whole other form of communication. It's just you know it in your head, you know how to do it, but then it's another thing to like actually explain what you're thinking in your head and like to actually train someone to do it. Like
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, what Nico was telling me all about that, like how his experience with the teaching and everything and how he got through it. But then now he's doing it through Zoom. So like that's a whole different experience
Yeah.
that he's going through trying to adapt to that. So with you, are you doing one-on-ones or is it like a group and then there's kind of like, socially distanced? Like what's like what's the situation there?
Usually it's a one-on-one lesson, which I got very comfortable with and felt, because I have a nonverbal student, for example, so I've had to learn how to explain things and you almost overcompensate when the other person isn't speaking. But
Yeah.
we've actually combined his lesson with another student. So now I'm having like a 2 or 3 person room, which I personally find overwhelming because I got very used to being like, okay, so and so student likes to listen to this music and likes to learn like this.
Oh, that's
And
cool that you make it
um,
personalized like that.
yeah, I try to, but now that we're combining them, It's been a whole new obstacle of making sure I'm paying attention to each student, and making sure they're both happy and having fun, because to me that's the most important thing about art making. So yeah.
So that, I mean, I guess that's a good experiment for you though, because since it's your first time teaching, at least you're doing it one on one. So then you get used to at least doing with one person, and now you have two people, and that's already a lot. So do you see yourself teaching a whole class of people, like 20 people, teaching them lessons and stuff?
I actually, and I told Niko this, I had a nightmare that I had like 100 students in a
Oh
classroom
boy.
and they were like, here, over here. One didn't have glue and one didn't have scissors. And I was like so overwhelmed. I think personally that I'm a better teacher one on one, but I mean, it would be a worthwhile skill to learn how to teach an entire class. So
Yeah, I mean,
hopefully I'll be comfortable doing that
I guess
later.
yeah, that gives you an appreciation, I guess, of what teachers have to go through, especially public schools now when they're like super overpopulated and they can't even get to each student.
Yeah.
Do you see yourself like
Yeah, for
at
sure.
least doing that as like as your main job, and then doing fine arts as your side until you get that up and running?
I would love to continue to teach. Is it my end goal? No. But teaching has been so great that I would certainly, can love to continue to do it. Yes, I do want to be able to be a full-time artist. So whenever that happens, whether it's next year or 20 years down the line, that's the goal. But teaching has been a great, side thing. I learn a lot from it too. So yeah.
Oh, okay, good. Um, I thought about doing it. I guess I would have to try and teach one person, but I think I have the
Yeah.
patience for it. But I don't know. I mean, with what Nico goes through, what you go through, and like,
Weird.
yeah, I bet it. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's
I
just,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
because like you're
I
dealing.
thought it would come very natural, but it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah, and I mean that's why I'm kind of also doing this with like the podcasting. It was also another excuse to just kind of
Mhm.
learn how to speak with people, because I was always like not much of a talker. I was more of a listener. So now that I'm the person
Yeah.
asking the questions, it's very daunting, and it's just like, just trying to figure out how to keep the conversation going and everything. So it's just another exercise that I'm doing for me. And so then to try and do that with like a whole class of people, or just, trying to teach someone, it's just, I'm not there yet, I don't think so. But yeah.
I
I,
think I could see you being a teacher.
you think so? I mean, I guess
Yeah, I think you would be a good teacher.
I think I think maybe college, or maybe then like elementary school. I don't know about like high school, cuz I know when I went to high school, the way that those teachers were treated, and in public schools, was just terrible. There was like no respect. So like I just wouldn't, I don't think I would have the patience for that. So at least with the younger kids, they like the teachers, and then the like being a professor in college, they have the respect. So I think it would be either or of one of those if I were ever to teach.
Yeah. I found that I thought I would, because I worked in childcare for a lot of my teen years. I was in a daycare or babysitting or whatever for years. So I thought teaching the little kids would be really easy. But it ends up being a lot of just like, don't cut with scissors like that, or like, don't pour that much paint. So I found that I like the older students a lot more. Surprisingly, I actually think one of my favorite lessons is with like a 13-year-old student that I have. Because he's funny and he's trying to learn, and he cares to sit down and really try to learn the skill. Whereas with little kids, I think it can be all over the place.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess with the one-on-one too, since it's more of like a controlled environment where they're not like with their friends, they could actually focus more, and you have their
Yeah.
attention. So I think that's definitely a much better route for that. So
Yeah.
right now, do you have any like side hustles going on?
Right now, I also work at a wine and liquor store, which has actually been so fun. Solely because I enjoy alcohol, not in like
Okay.
a overly consuming. I love whiskey and I appreciate wine, and so it's been cool. This place actually has an amazing selection. They're not just like your creepy like liquor store on the side of the street. They're
Yeah.
selling like $10,000 bottles of wine and ridiculous things like that. So yeah, so that's just been like mindless work that I do for 20-25 hours during the week. And then I also teach, and then I'm still working on, my own projects. So
Good. Good. So, do you have any stories in like that liquor store? Because there has to be like a drunk story here or there from like a customer or something.
there actually was today, right before I came on. This man
Perfect.
comes in just like hooting and hollering. He is like crying and but not crying, kind of like fake crying, like my friend just died, like please, I don't have any money, give me, please, can I please, I'll pay you back, just like causing a whole scene. I was in the back trying to wrap a bottle of wine for someone, or actually it was a case of high noon, and my friend, his name is also Camryn, calls me and he's like, help me out with this guy, help me out with this guy. And I was just like, oh, okay.
Oh boy.
There are a lot of consistent customers that are definitely alcoholics, which is the one sad part to working at a liquor store. Um, but for the most part, I'm just like learning everyone who comes in and what they want, and that one guy that comes in and gets a pint of Barton's every single day or whatever. But yeah, nothing insane. Your average what you would
Yeah.
expect at a
Right.
liquor
Right.
store.
I'm glad. I mean, what are the odds that it happened today? That was your first story. Um, I
I
guess.
know.
Yeah. It's always. I always kind of like those encounters just because I just like to hear the stories that come with that. And I know like we're just working in any like retail or anything, you get these regulars and you kind of figure out like who they are as a person just because of what they actually buy, or they actually start talking to you and everything. I mean, I worked at Aldo,
Right.
and I would have this one or two consistent customers that would come and just buy, and it was like for the weekend, and they try to return it or something, and it was just you
Oh
they
man.
had they all these kind of people, they have that pattern in them that you just catch on to, and with each of
Yeah,
them, they have their story. So yeah.
for sure.
So you said you're working on your own like project now. So that was your thesis was in Vermont. So you said you had to switch it
Hmm.
up. Is that what you're working on now?
No, so now I've been consistently stuck on the subject of flesh for probably about a couple years now. I love horror movies, so the special effects that are flesh and just the intricacies of flesh in real life are very intriguing to me. Um, and I did a huge painting of like my own like breast and stomach a couple years ago, and so I wanted to like retouch on that with smaller paintings because I'm in a smaller space. So I'm working on those, and then I'm also kind of back to the yarn thing. Um, Making these like weird yarn organ looking sculptures that I don't know what I'm going to do with them yet, because I definitely started it in a very sad headspace of like putting myself back together, and now I am more into myself and I feel a lot better. So I don't know what I'm going to make of them. Oh, and I'm also working on these sweatshirts. They're of my own
Oh,
teeth.
that's fun. I didn't even realize that. So wait, so how do you do that? So it's all painted. Oh,
So
okay.
I screen printed and then I painted over it. And
That's
I don't know,
cool.
I Rob Zombie is one of my like greatest idols ever.
Oh
And
yeah.
so I wanted a name that was similar to him. And so I came up with Cameron Venom. And so I'm kind of like going with that. I have like snake skin on this. I don't know. We'll see what becomes
Dude,
of it.
yeah,
But
I dig that. Wow. I gotta learn how to screen print, man, because I love t-shirts. I love graphic tees, and I want to just figure that out. So, how do you do that? How do you screen print? Because it's on like lost on me how to
so
fucking do that.
yeah. There is a way to do it like at home without the equipment. I have never done it. These were all previously screen printed in a screen printing class at FIT, and I just never finished them. So I had a bunch of them. I had like underwear, t-shirts, and then these sweatshirts, all with this image that I had screen printed on of my teeth. And so now I'm just kind of painting over them and making them like one of a kinds. But yeah, screen printing in the studio is, just using emulsion and exposing the photo onto the silk screen, and then there's some other like wiping off kind of process, and then inking that onto whatever you're printing, and then drying it, obviously. But there is a way to do it at home where you use like the sun instead of like a machine, like the machines in the studios, and then use like your bathtub to wash the screens. I have never tried, but I think it would be worthwhile to see how that goes.
So I guess you kind of do need a lot of space at least if you're gonna do it at home. Because
Yeah, which
I
is
want to.
why I don't plan on sitting here very long.
Yeah, exactly. You kind of just want to do that in your own space, not at your mom's very nice bathroom and mess it up with all the paint.
Yeah,
I've done
for
that
sure.
to I've done that to the bathroom here, trying to clean all the oil paint out of my brushes. Many nights I
Yeah,
had
exactly. They hate it.
yeah, yeah, many nights I had to like sit there and scrub all the excess paint from the sink before it would sit. Yeah. So and like I love the idea of screen printing because I'm into, making posters, like movie posters and all of that kind of stuff. And I want to learn how to screen print or just how to set up the files to do the screen printing. Just for future because that's the name of the game, especially when I want to get into like a gallery now, like places like Bottleneck and stuff. That's what they like sell. They sell these screen printed posters that are limited colors. Whereas with me, I find it hard to find like a limited palette. I love working with so many colors and like doing that kind of stuff. So I think I definitely
Yeah,
need to
yeah.
take a class in like screen printing to figure all that stuff out. So
Niko and I love a screen printing class, so maybe we'll just have to show you next time we're all together.
yeah, he gave me one of his one of the ones that he made. He made the Baby Yoda one that said Bay. And
Right. Yeah, yeah.
this guy gave me an extra large. So it's like a I don't even know what to do. I can't wear it out, but I'll wear it inside, I guess. um, but yeah, it's super dope the way it came out from what he did.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
he
Yeah,
also
for
had
sure.
issues with it drying. So because even when I washed it,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
it kind of faded. So how do you like prevent that from getting all damaged and shit?
I, I think that's the ink itself. I don't think we were using like whatever inks FIT was had for us for the most part. So I think it's just a matter of us doing a little more research as to what the best inks are for screen printing in terms of uh, clothing and like regularly washing them.
Did you use like a fabric paint or was it just like actual like regular paint that you guys used?
It's some kind of screen printing ink. I don't even remember. I don't remember.
Okay. All right. So so you're working on all these things right now. You're trying to like get out there in like 5 years, 10 years, or just like in general. What's success to you? Like, what do you see as your success story?
I think I have this great image of me in some beautiful loft in Brooklyn. being a full-time artist. But realistically, I think success is being able to entirely support myself off of whatever art I'm making. And I think I'm still in the process of how I want to do that, because you can make prints and you can make sellable art to some degree, or go to art fairs that you don't want to necessarily be in. And I'm trying to navigate my path and see where that's going to be and how long I would have a job to support myself also painting and sculpting on the side. But to me, success is definitely just being able to fully support myself as a full-time artist. So hopefully within the next 10 years, that will be where I'm at. But I think it's going to take a lot of hustle and a lot of weird maneuvers, especially since I was not expecting COVID and was not expecting to not have all these opportunities to make shows. I mean, the turnout at Reflection was so incredible. I truly wonder if COVID hadn't hit, how I could have profited off of those shows if I marketed them a little bit differently. So yeah, hoping those are still opportunities in the future, but being a curator and being an artist full time would definitely be the success story for me.
So, do you see, let me see, with success, do you want to be like a famous artist, or is more of like just you want to do the thing you love, you don't really care for the fame, you just kind of want to like live off your art kind of thing?
I mean, I think I definitely want to be a famous artist. I would love to be like Andy Warhol level of like changing the game. But I don't know necessarily what that's going to be from me. I get very stuck on human connection and how important that is. And COVID is really testing that for me, like internally outside of art making, just as morals. So I could see that being something I would pursue as an artist for my lifetime. So being famous off of that would be phenomenal. But I would be really happy if I just had a few solo shows here and there and had a kick-ass time, you know, going
Yeah.
to parties and other artwork and living with other artists too, you know.
Yeah, I'm similar in that way, but I don't know if I could do the fame, because you know what kind of fame I could do probably? It would be the like B level, where it's just like you're famous, but when people see you on the street, they're like, "Is that
Yeah.
nah, that's not him." Like that kind of, where it's just like I can still live my life,
Yeah.
but people know what I do kind of thing. But I don't know. I I always like to ask that question, and it's funny with like fine artists, they really, like, you guys kind of want that Andy Warhol kind of fame. You want people to like really know you, and I think that really goes with the
Yeah.
fact, with the fact that you guys want to showcase your work in galleries and stuff. Whereas I don't know, with illustrators, we're just doing it for the money, I guess.
Yeah. I think a lot of artists, like fine artists, have a god complex. So I think
Do
that's
you
part
have one?
of it. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I like to deny it, but it's definitely there. I want to listen more than speak and shout from the rooftops, but that's all. If you want to be famous, or if you want to have people, appreciate your work, you kind of have to be cocky to a certain degree, and also think that you have the thing, that everyone wants to see,
For sure. So, do you even get imposter syndrome then?
I don't know. I'm very in my head. So I think, oh my God, you can hear my dog crying so much. Bones, please. No.
She just
Um,
wants attention.
I think, yeah, she's like, you were at work and then you come home and you are talking to the computer. Um, I think that I'm on a borderline between who is Camryn like right now versus who I want Camryn to be in the future. So perhaps that is imposter syndrome to a certain degree.
So I got, well, like, more so, like, do you feel like a fraud sometimes when you're?
No, no. I think I'm more genuinely coming into myself than ever, which is exciting.
Well, that's
Um,
good then. Yeah.
I've always been weird and I've always wanted to do what I wanted to do, but now I'm really testing where those boundaries are. I think I'm thinking a lot about performance lately and how so frequently we are putting on some kind of performance.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And what I've noticed is like I sing better when nobody's around, kind of thing, rather than when I'm singing in front of someone else. And I'm trying to think a lot about what that means in terms of art making. And if I just let go and let myself be authentic, what kind of good work comes from that?
Yeah, and then that's just super hard to even do to like because as anybody could say, they could say that oh they don't care about what other people think, but regardless what you're doing, I feel like anybody that's walking out and people are seeing them, they're gonna switch it up so they seem more acceptable. It's really hard to stay genuine, true to yourself out in public and show people your true colors kind of thing because you always have to like uphold some sort of image that you made, especially now in with the social media, the way that's like been
Definitely.
like shifting everybody's like whole personas and everything. So, I mean, I commend you for doing that, like pushing yourself and like you figuring all that out, you know. And
I'm thinking a lot about it.
yeah. So now with your with the pieces that you're doing now with the whole body and like the body horror art aspect of it, I think it's very important now because with the whole human connection, you say that it's just like it's harder to do now because of COVID, but I think this is the perfect time for it because people are so separated and there isn't no affection or anything. This is the perfect time to showcase something like that, you know. So I don't know, maybe
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Y-
it's
yeah.
sad though. It makes me upset that I'm not seeing my best friend who lives very close by to me. But you know what I've learned too about COVID is everyone has a different scale. Everyone is not on the same kind of nervousness, not on the same kind of
Yeah.
carefulness as everyone else. So it's kind of learning like, oh, she is like super cautious and doesn't want to see me, but he's not as cautious and he will be cool to see me. Um, so playing with those interactions with people that you love is very interesting. And recently I met someone who is kind of way less nervous about COVID than I've ever met. Everyone thus far has been really scared and
Yeah.
sticking to the guidelines. And then now I've met someone who's like, wait a minute, this is like ruining everything. And he and I have had a lot of conversations about that. So it's kind of opened up a new door of thinking and assessing the real damage of a pandemic like this. You know, we're losing human connection, which is like detrimental to our health.
Oh
So
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as much as I love like, still speaking and through Zoom, it's never going to be the same as if we were to be in person, like actually seeing people's reactions and like seeing what they're thinking as you're speaking or something. And it's real time, you could actually communicate better that way whereas like now there's like connection issues and it's just things get lost in that kind of translation.
Right. Especially teaching, like my, not to throw my little sister under the bus, but she goes to school in her bed. Do you know what I mean? Like she just sits in bed and opens her laptop and that's school. And I think that's so not it. That's not how it's supposed to be. That's not a fulfilling learning experience. Especially as an artist. She's not an artist, but I'm thinking if I was continuing to do critiques over Zoom, how just vapid that would be, just so empty, and not gonna really work for much longer, I think, though I don't know what the solution is. um yeah.
Yeah, and especially for something like art, you know, it's so difficult to even teach through a screen like this where it's like like you have these demos, people are doing these demos, you got to see these things in person. You got to get the 360 view and just like feel everything and ah it's definitely hard. And then and yeah, like you were saying, it's so detrimental for education, especially for the for younger people, and then just well, no, just anybody in general. You know, you can't really learn in bed because you have like home is like where you relax, you do what you need
Mhm.
to do, and then you got you go to school, and then you're focusing on that. So now trying to merge both worlds together is just when can you relax, like you finished these
Yeah,
classes, right, and you're still in bed, but you can't relax because that's where you work, and that's where it's like
yeah,
everything's getting all skewed. It's unfortunate for sure.
I agree. And I think we're all of those, random bumps with strangers and meeting new acquaintances and making new friends have now been pushed entirely to social media and to even something like a Zoom call. Um, and that is, I don't think, going to work for very long in terms of proper
Yeah,
growth for kids specifically. Thinking about kindergartners and even high
yeah,
school. I mean, my sisters are in middle school and high school. Think about all those, weird things that happen in middle school and high school that kind of have to happen. You have to go through those things.
yeah,
Um, and they're just not happening because they're on a computer. And but then I've been thinking about kids this entire time, and then I go, but wait, what about us, adults, people who are not in school? They're also really valuable interactions that we're supposed to be having every single day, where we run into someone on the train or we make a new friend, and it's just so much harder to do now, and social media is not going to cut it. It's not.
yeah. It's there's always going to be that wall that it just won't give you that extra fulfillment in like what you need. All right, so we're kind of straying
Yeah.
away from the whole art thing. So over the years, we all have like this growth in art, and like all our styles change and everything. So can we like get into that? Like how like have you seen your art grow in a sense? Like has it changed from when you first started?
Absolutely. I when I look back at like the doodles I did as a young kid, um I remember drawing families, and it would be like a storyline, kind of like man meets girl, and like they fall in love and then they have babies and they live by a house, and I would always just draw it in this very particular way. And then I look at my sketches from high school that were very much like just the human form, specifically the female form, very feminine charged. And in my junior year of college, they had us create a lexicon, which is kind of like the language of the artist, like how you are speaking, what are you making. And I looked back at all of these childhood drawings and into my teen and then college years, and it was all either family, femininity, naked women. Like there was such a strong feminine um, aspect to it that I am still, I think, trying to pursue. But now I'm acknowledging my love of horror. Like I was also that little girl who everyone was in a princess costume on Halloween, and I was 5 years old in a Scream costume. So I'm trying
Oh
to kind
wow.
of blend those two things, like feminine, like sexual energy with, I guess, this fear aspect, which maybe is very bizarre and uncomfortable, but it's exciting for me. It's exciting to make people uncomfortable. So I'm
Oh
I'm
yeah.
trying to go down that yeah.
So give me an example. Like so how do you mix then the horror with the female form? Like what are you making to like merge those two together? Hey again. So we got new outfits. Um, so just to let everybody know, we had a whole issue during the first podcast 2 days ago, and we lost like 20 minutes of the podcast. So we came and redid it and just changed outfits just because we can. Um, so where we left off, we were talking about how you mesh together your like the body, the female body, and then like the body with horror and everything. So I want you just to explain to everybody what that means and why you're doing this series.
Yeah, so I am doing this series because firstly, I'm very interested in horror movies, special effects, makeup, the whole thing. I have been since I was a little kid, but I really like making people uncomfortable. And for what reason, I'm not entirely sure. I think it's a fun feeling to sort of play with, especially because it sort of challenges you to think differently rather than just like, oh, that's pretty, or oh, that makes me sad. It's like, why does that make me uncomfortable? And so I'm doing that down to the basis of just flesh itself and the human body itself. Like I have a fascination with teeth, um all teeth, but specifically human teeth, and I've like printed my own teeth a few different times.
Yeah, you were wearing that before. So
Yeah, and I have one now.
I want another one. That's awesome. So,
Yeah,
and I'm assuming that one's screen printed, right?
yeah, this one's entirely screen printed.
That's cool.
No paint on this one, but
Okay.
yeah. And also, I'm recently-ish out of a long-term relationship, so I think this like fear-based artwork and like kind of aggressive teeth thing going on could possibly be just that regaining of personal strength, kind of like putting up my walls perhaps, or just making it known like, don't mess with me.
I
That
like that.
that could definitely be a part of the psychology to why I'm leaning more towards these creepy fear-based artworks, I suppose. But mostly it comes down to just my love of horror. And yeah.
Yeah, so then you're working to make like a bunch of these like is it like statues? Is it like paintings? What kind of things are you working on right now?
So right now I'm in the middle of sort of two projects. One is a series of different close-ups of different bodies. I'm either having people like willingly send me photos of maybe like their collarbone or whatever, or looking up just like photos of belly rolls or something like that. So I have that series is going on. It's a bunch of small canvases, like 8 by 10 is the biggest. And then I'm also using like yarn and stuffing to make organ looking
Yeah,
sculptures.
that one was cool. I wanted to talk to you about that too. I think that is so awesome how you're working with the yarn and making like the organs.
Well, I think that one was partially inspired by my thesis project that was done in the woods with the red rope and string. I think I was like just attracted to the material itself and also wanting to continue down the human body creepy realm. So now they're like, wait, are they cute? Are they soft or are they creepy? And I think that's the vibe I'm going for with that piece.
That's cool. So I'm kind of curious. Are you gonna work with like eventually? Would you work with like actual teeth and make something with that into like
I
a sculpture?
I was casting my own teeth maybe a year or two ago, and I wanted to then make a bunch of casts of my teeth in plaster and like put it into concrete, because I always had that dream of like falling down the stairs and like busting my teeth.
Oh,
Gross. But I don't know about real teeth. I don't know how it would necessarily come about. I mean, I've at like, beach resort stores, they have like shark teeth that you can buy.
you could do that, yeah, or
But
somehow get like
yeah.
get like the kids tooth fairy and
Yeah.
take their
Yeah,
take
my
their
little
teeth.
sister, she said she has a loose tooth, and I go, "Can I have your tooth for
Yeah,
your
there you
son?"
go, and then
And she
just
was like,
make it.
"Yeah," but she was like, Mammy, that's what my family calls me. She was like, "The tooth fairy comes and gets it," and I was like, "Oh right, sorry."
Oh, right. I mean, I guess you could play tooth fairy for a little bit until she
Yeah, right.
finds it in one of your sculptures.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I I mean, with all this going on, are you planning to like make a whole series of it to then do a solo show?
Absolutely. So, because I curated that one show in 2020, right before the pandemic, I was like, I want to do another group show. I want to do another group show. But now I'm thinking if I really develop a flesh body of work that I'm proud of, I want to curate my own solo show, either in the summer or in the winter of this year.
I think that's viable. I mean, you already have that connection with with that gallery. Are you
Yeah.
gonna do it there again?
I would love to do it there again, but I'm peaking at bigger spaces.
Got you.
I mean, they would obviously be a lot more expensive,
Hmm.
but a bigger space would be better because I'm working very big. And you remember it was like tiny. So
Yeah, yeah, that was very. I mean, looking now at like COVID times, that was just so bad. But
I
you know,
know.
you got to work with what with the space you got, and it was very successful. I mean, it's better to be packed than everybody not showing
Absolutely.
up or something.
There was like half people were outside, which was
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah,
But
yeah. I remember I was outside for a bit, literally giving Nico a whole photo shoot.
oh my god.
Yeah, yeah. So you know how he gets with his characters. I
oh
think I
yeah.
one of those one of the photos from that day I actually used for the cover of the his interview for the YouTube.
Oh,
Yeah, so that's one of
cool.
them.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I saw it.
Yeah, yeah, where
Yeah.
he's like,
Mm-hmm.
very
Absolutely.
flamboyant. I'm sure he's
I
gonna
love
laugh
it.
when he hears this part. Um,
Yeah.
okay, so yeah, I'm definitely down to see like what you make. I mean, I already love the whole yarn like organ idea because I don't think I've ever seen that before. I definitely want to see something that has to do with teeth because
yeah.
maybe like with playing with resin or like epoxy with that
I
like
have
kind of
resin
gloss.
just sitting, waiting for me to
There you go.
use.
Use the mold
So
of your teeth or something, and then I don't know.
yeah. Well, I think I would have to remake it. It was very uncomfortable making, as you can imagine,
Oh yeah.
a cast of your teeth because you literally have to pour the material into your mouth and then just let it sit there until it.
Yeah, they did that for me when I had to get my braces done. That was like the first thing they did before I got my braces on, so I can
They
remember.
poured it in.
Well, no, they put it in like a little like aluminum
Yeah,
like
yeah.
tray. Yeah, and then you bite into it. You got to sit there for like I don't know 5 minutes or something, and then you
Yes.
you have the cast. And it was just to like so I can have a cast of how my old teeth looked. Very
Right.
bad, but I mean
Yes, well,
I
I did that too, but when we did body casting and if anyone who did sculpture with me
was that
listens,
was that
that was
bones?
that was the phone. She's like, "Can you stop, mom? Can we play?"
I
Um
love bones.
No, I literally had to pour it in. It was like liquid. It was like a milk.
Oh.
It was terribly disgusting. And then you had to just kind of wait with your mouth
Oh
closed.
man. So you didn't have like the tray or something?
No, we didn't have that kind of
Oh
pass.
shoot. Yeah,
Yeah,
no, no,
it
no.
was
I think that
gross.
would have been dangerous too. Like in case you like swallowed it or something.
It's I'm so blanking on the material I feel dumb.
Or is it
But
more
it
like a
was
dough? It was like doughy, so you couldn't like really swallow it, kind of
no,
thing.
it was liquid. You had to keep your like tongue
That's
up.
dangerous. That's yeah. I mean, I guess you die for your art. I guess.
And I was like also like downwards, like sort of my head facing the
Oh,
ground
okay. So
so that
okay. I mean,
it was
that's
disgusting, absolutely disgusting.
yeah. I mean, I guess I don't think that's the kind of one that you could put in your mouth. I know the one that they gave me tasted like bubble gum. So
See, because they're yeah,
yeah, I
probably
had
more
a
expensive, but
yeah,
whatever.
probably. But yeah, that's funny. So yeah, I definitely want to see something like that from you. And those huge paintings, man, those 6 feet. I don't know how you work so fast with that.
I miss working that large. I mean, I'm hoping to do a big painting soon. You can sort of see I have a bunch of
Yeah, you
older
have a
paintings
lot of space
behind me,
too. Yeah.
but it's all like carpet. It's not my house, so I need to get into a space where I can be really messy and all over the place and paint really big.
Have you considered like renting like a studio space or something?
I think it's pretty eminent that I'll be moving back to the city within the next 6 months.
Okay.
So I'm hesitant to get a studio space here in upstate New York. Well, it's not really upstate. I'm like 40 miles north of the city. So yeah, I'm kind of just like working with the space that I have, making things that are, not as messy or ginormous. And then once I get back to the city, I'm just gonna probably go crazy, honestly.
Yeah, just go all out. I mean, with Niko, he's been going all out ever since he started getting into that studio.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
His stuff
so
is incredible. He always sends me updates, which is exciting.
yeah, studio space is so important for us, man, because that way, I mean, even with being here in my house,
Yeah.
I could work here, but then eventually I get distracted by things around me, like say, oh, a show, a video, like video games are like right there to me. So
Yep.
it's hard to just stay focused. Whereas you have a studio space, a dedicated studio space, there's nothing there but art. You have to work, you know. So
For
I
sure.
mean, same thing with me. I want to move into the city eventually, and then hopefully get that kind of space too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
It's
okay.
necessary.
Another thing. So with your body stuff,
Mm-hmm.
have you ever thought of like, 'cause you have the chest one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever thought of like doing a series where like they all kind of connect to each other?
Yeah. I have, oh, sorry, Bones is drinking.
No worries.
I have thought about that, or when I was making all of the small ones of flesh, I wanted to have them placed really close together so that they look all like one piece.
Okay, yeah. It reminds me of I don't know have you ever played with like Yu-Gi-Oh? With the Yu-Gi-Oh cards and everything?
No.
Okay, so there's I'm blanking on his name, but there's like when you I was telling you about that, it just reminded me of like there's these five cards that when you combine them together they make up a body because each card has a different part
Oh.
of a limb, and
Uh-huh.
then he's like the ultimate like monster that you could get that ends the game. So that's what I was thinking of.
Huh.
But
Yeah, that's interesting.
yeah, so that could be like an idea that could, I don't know, work out
Yeah.
eventually.
Yeah.
All right,
Hmm.
so you know, now let's get into movies because I love movies, and we did have a cool conversation about them.
We did.
So you you love Rob Zombie.
I
So
do.
are there any in particular that you enjoy from him? Like any movies?
I hate to be cliche, but I love House of a Thousand Corpses and Devil's Rejects. I mean, which are his like most popular
Yeah,
movies. I just think they were really well done. They were really exciting. They were really jarring
yeah.
and also funny. Um, yeah, I gotta say those were probably my favorite.
What'd you think of his Halloween one?
I enjoyed it, but to be
Yeah.
honest, I definitely watched it inebriated.
Oh, okay.
um, so I would have to watch it again to give you a real review, but I didn't remember walking away being like, wow, that was amazing, you know?
Yeah, a lot of people it gets like a lot of mixed signals about it, but it's a hit or miss with that franchise, but the recent ones have been pretty good. And
Yeah,
I know they're halting the new one was supposed to come out this October or November, but I think they're
yeah,
waiting for the following year, which I'm
yeah.
excited about. I had they this company Printed in Blood reached out to me to do uh, a poster, like an alternate poster,
Oh my God.
and it's coming out in this summer. So it was just like
Oh my God.
it was like a whole book about the original Halloween. So it's like different variations of like what people design as a poster. And honestly, it was like one of my hardest ones because it's been done so much, you know?
Yeah,
It's
right.
like a cult classic. Everybody does that movie, you know. So I'm excited for it to finally release so that I could show everybody what the
Yeah,
poster looks like.
that's so exciting.
Yeah. Any other movies that you
Uh,
can think of?
well, I mean, on the topic of horror, definitely Pet Cemetery, Stephen King's
Right. And
whenever it
that
came out in the 80s. I have not seen the new one.
and you said
Um,
you don't want to.
yeah,
You
I
don't
don't know.
like the
I'm
remakes.
yes, because what we talked about was how I loved like 80s well, first of all, horror standards. Not that I don't enjoy like all of the boundaries that are being pushed now. Um to a certain degree, not to sound like a psycho, but in the 80s it was like you could see a shadow of someone getting stabbed, and it was like really scary, and the suspense music and the acting and the wardrobe. I mean, I love 80s horror movies. I think Pet Sematary just happens to be like one of my favorite.
No, that's one I haven't seen yet, and I still have to see. It what came into my radar when the new one came out. So hi Bones, how are you? So I still have to watch that one. But what do you think about the new It? Because I enjoyed them. They
Oh,
were
I
great.
actually did. I did enjoy that movie. Um, was there a second one?
Yeah. So it was like the part two came out, I think last year.
I
Or
did
no,
not
two
see the
years ago.
second part, but the first part was really well done.
Yeah, yeah.
The acting was great. I think the CGI from those crazy scenes in that whatever cave thing was cool. Or underground, whatever it was.
Yeah, I know that they really like went in deep to like the cave parts in part two. So
Oh, okay.
maybe yeah. So
Maybe. Oh, okay. I'm now
you
wondering if
might have watched the
part
second one.
two.
um but yeah, man, and then Skarsgård, because he can naturally do that eye thing. So that wasn't even CGI. That was just him doing it on his own.
Ooh, that's creepy. That's cool.
Yeah,
I can hear
man.
that.
I mean, he they casted him really well because he has really huge eyes too.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. And then we were talking about Train to Busan too, how that one's a really good one.
Oh my God. I just watched that movie again recently. I showed it to someone, and again, I'm like noticing new details about it. It's such a good storyline, such good acting. That little
Yeah.
girl, I mean, she did phenomenal. And again, the CGI, and the whole time I was questioning like what of the zombie movements were real, what were sort of edited. I mean, I love that movie so much.
Yeah. It was definitely a really good one. And then we talked about Midsommar, because
Mm-hmm.
you haven't watched it, but it's like
No.
it plays on the whole fact that you can still make a horror movie even if it's daylight the whole time, and
Yeah.
like they they simulate like you tripping on like mushrooms and everything, with like everything around the frame just like warping subtly. You can't even, if you're not looking for it, you can't really tell. And then it's just, oh man, it gets like the colors when it comes to like, man, I don't want to ruin it, but it's just very vibrant at times when it's like really bright out, and it's just so good. I
I
enjoyed
need
it.
to watch it.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
I'm
You got
gonna
to
look
get
for
into.
it.
Hmm.
When we hang up, I'm gonna look for it and see if I can watch it tonight or
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Anything from that director, I'm gonna probably get like shunned, but I'm pretty sure that's Ari Aster. Let me just
Okay.
double check before I get. Okay, direct. Yeah, Ari Aster. Okay, I got it right. So yeah,
Nice.
anything from him, he's like really cool with that. And have you seen Hereditary?
No, been recommended, have
Oh
not
my
seen.
god, you're missing out on like the cool horror stuff. So that is like the total opposite. Now it's like everything's like super contrasty, in the dark, like. And then when you do watch it again, you gotta look around the frames, look
Okay.
around what's happening, like aside from what they want you to see, look around,
Yeah.
and it'll like
Yeah.
trip you out, because
Okay.
that's the one that just plays on the darkness, and nothing really happens. It's very silent. Like there's moments where like there's no music happening or anything, and it's just
Oh, creepy.
like playing on your emotions a lot. Um, let me see
Yeah, we
what.
also talked about Killing of a Sacred Deer.
Oh
And
yeah,
I
that.
told you to watch that.
And then I told you that I fell asleep during it, so I have
Oh,
to
right, right.
rewatch it. I have to rewatch
It
it.
it is slow like that if you're not awake, because I fall asleep during literally practically every movie. There's very few that will keep me awake. Um, but that one is slow and until it's not, and
Okay.
just it's like waiting for something to happen, kind of suspenseful movie. And the cinematography is also like one of the best I've seen in a long time. It's so clean, it's so symmetrical, it's so disturbingly symmetrical, I think. That it's just fun to watch, even if you're not even paying attention to what's going on.
Yeah, I gotta get into that one. I think I'm trying to think of a recent movie that I watched. Oh, this one on Netflix that just came out that me and my girlfriend really enjoyed. It was I Care a Lot. Have you seen that?
Okay.
So it's the actress from Gone Girl.
Okay.
So you know how like she played like really well. Like with her, she can say so much with like subtle like facial expressions, and it's the same thing in this one. And in this one, she's basically like a state appointed guardian for the elderly.
Okay.
So like if she can prove that they can't take care of themselves, she she is appointed by the state as their legal guardian, and what she does is basically like a hustle. She she forces the elderly to go into you know the homes, and then she sells their house, sells like all their assets and makes the money off of that, and that's her basically
Wow.
her business until she gets the wrong person. So then that's where the story like really ramps up to see like what happens when she's messing like with, you know, the wrong people, and what ends up happening to her. And Peter Dinklage is in it, and he's a badass. So and
Cool.
it's kind of funny though. There is one scene where he's like getting into a car, but you can tell that they parked it on a slant, so he could like kind of walk up smooth into the car. But other than that, it was so awesome. I think and
Okay.
it just came out on Netflix. It's because last week, I
Okay.
think. So definitely check that one out.
Cool. Huh.
Yeah. So okay, we got through. We remade these 20 minutes, I think, however
Yeah.
long we made this, and I really hope that this saves now. So
Yeah.
thank you so much again. Just tell everybody your pluggables, where they could find your work, where you're gonna lead them to, so you know they could see all your stuff.
For sure. You can find me on Instagram at Camryn Venom. Camryn with a Y, Camryn Venom. I'm gonna have a website soon. It's under construction. I got really into the idea of making it very clean and boring, and then realized I didn't want to make it kind of exciting and strange. So under construction website, but for now, check out the Instagram. I post what I teach and whatever I'm working on, as well as bones. So
Perfect. We love to see bones.
yeah.
Alrighty. Thank you so much again. All right.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
Yay. Bye.